You have a nice skirt on and a nice blouse with a red tie. How come you look so nice?
Because I'm going to school.
Oh, boy, you look all snappy.
Today's my first day.
Oh, are you like going to school?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I'm really nervous of going. Each day I'm saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. But it's going to be fun because I get to go on the school bus.
How many of us can remember our first day of school? A walk down the street to a big building we had seen but didn't know much about, or maybe a ride in a big yellow bus. It was the beginning of a new season, but that season was about a lot more than just going to school. At that time in our lives, the biological and social clocks were chiming in unison. The biological clock, which controls the growth of the body, was delaying sexual maturity and creating a special time in life to learn. The social clock, which expresses the norms of society, was saying, "You're big enough to go to school. It's time to go off for a while on your own." In this program, we're going to explore the new world that Hannah Holtzman will enter when she goes off on her own. Our focus will be not on the school, but on the schoolyard, on the importance of the friends she will make. We'll hear about kids who have trouble making friends, about the problems they may encounter later on, and about the help we can give them right now. We'll also meet an older child who's entering junior high. 7 years ago, she did what Hannah's about to do, but now she's going through another transition, another first day.
I don't really know how to read yet, but I think I know the story.
Okay, who is this?
Scuffy.
Scuffy. What does Scuffy do? He looks like a boat.
He's a tugboat.
Scuffy the Tugboat is the main character in 5-year-old Hannah's favorite book. Though Hannah can't read yet, with the help of pictures, she can tell you a story. The story of Scuffy begins in the bathtub.
Then Scuffy says that it's not the right place to be in a bath. He was meant to be in things bigger.
Oh, so then they put him in the little river. Now, is that where Scuffy should be?
Then he says I was meant for things bigger.
Wow, oh, he's going down the river now. Is that like he's going to school, maybe?
I don't think so.
Well, maybe. Scuffy is ready for something bigger than a bathtub, and at the age of 5, Hannah is ready for something bigger than her home. Cognitively, she has taken enormous strides in the past 5 years. Her brain has reached 90% of the size it will have when she's an adult. She has learned both the words and the grammar of a spoken language. She knows her alphabet, and she can print her name. She's on the threshold of what the ancients called the age of reason, and what Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget called the stage of concrete operations. But her social development has been equally impressive. This is Sheldon White, professor of psychology.
She has some kind of an ability to stand clear of the family and to do business with the world by herself that she didn't have a few years before. She has an ability to be away from the folks for long periods of time during the day. She has abilities to form alliances with peers. She has abilities to, quote unquote, get along with other children that will be very important, because a large part of school, maybe to her, the most important part, will be her engagements with her peer groups and her formation of social groupings with other children.
Hannah is going to take on new responsibilities, and in that she's not alone. Around the world, the social clock says consistently that children between 5 and 7 years of age are supposed to move beyond their immediate families. The consistency may be due to some hidden action of the biological clock, perhaps some further refinement of the brain's wiring. Though we know little about what happens biologically, there are clear social consequences. Professor White.
There are a number of Indian tribes in which children of 4 or 5 years of age go on a vision quest. It's very interesting. They go out into the woods and they're supposed to meet an animal, and the animal speaks to them, and the animal, having spoken to them, becomes connected with them, becomes their totemic animal, and remains with the child for the rest of the child's life. So the child becomes in league with an owl or a badger or a chipmunk, whatever the animal is. Child has been connected with the world via its parents. Now the child makes its own connection to nature, makes its own connection to the world.
A vision quest usually comes at the beginning of that transitional time between 5 and 7. Other societies institutionalize the change in other ways.
There's a fairly broad pattern among non-literate societies of admitting children into a first stage of adulthood, giving them first adult roles and responsibilities at 6 or 7 years of age. And it includes such things as English common law and Catholic canon law, which recognize major changes in the status of a human being at that age point.
In our society, we start children in school. Hannah, like Scuffy, may find her new status a bit scary. What are these guys doing?
They're trying to chase after him.
Okay, now what happens?
Then the women that he sails past the women that are washing clothes, and then some mans are trying to chase after him with logs, trying to bump into him.
But Scuffy gets past all of them.
I know, but he gets real scared.
When she starts school, Hannah will go off on a quest of her own. She'll find herself in new circumstances and surrounded by new people. Her dad senses that she, too, is a little scared.
Oh, yeah, we've been telling her that she was going to school, and the past few days she said that she's nervous about going to school. Yesterday she said she was mad because she wanted to stay home more to play.
Hannah has a right to be nervous and angry. Although she'll be gaining a whole new world, she'll also be losing part of the world she's been accustomed to. When Hannah goes to school, she'll lose her mother for the rest of the afternoon. She'll lose a sense of comfort and security. She'll have to adapt to a teacher and get along with new kids. At times, she may feel lost. Professor White.
It's not easy. In fact, a few years younger, and she would resist that violently. She has to be among strangers. A little tough to get used to. And so part of the process of human development is it's not all upwards and onwards and bigger and brighter and better. Some of it is sad. Some of it is painful. And so she's entering into, shall we say, the agony and the ecstasy of human development.
Nor will the separation be easy on her mother.
I'm a little nervous with her. I mean, I think I'm kind of... I know she'll do really well. It's not that. It's just sort of this whole separation, and I know she's got 12, 16, whatever years ahead of her of school, and it's a whole new era. So it's a little nerve-wracking because I just know both the good and the bad side of going off to school and hoping her experience will be real positive.
It turned out that Scuffy's experience was both positive and negative. He said he was meant for something bigger, and he found it down by the ocean. Where's Scuffy? I can't even find him here.
Right. That's not Scuffy because it doesn't have a blue smokestack.
There's so many.
That's Scuffy.
Oh, here he is, right next to that big, big boat.
Yeah, that's pretty big. And he's probably trying to get away from all that. Mm-hmm. He's in trouble because there's so big of waves.
Scuffy found adventure down by the ocean, but he also found big boats, big waves, and big trouble. Suddenly he saw his little family standing on a pier.
And then...
What happened? Oh, look at this.
They're getting him and taking him home. And then he doesn't mind going in the bathtub.
It was quite a trip for Scuffy, leaving his bathtub, heading down the river, and then returning home. And it's going to be quite a trip for Hannah as well. At this moment, the biological, social, and psychological clocks that govern her development are pretty much in sync. Like Scuffy, Hannah can say,
I was meant for things bigger.
One of the biggest challenges in Hannah's new world will be making friends. She'll have to join playgroups and cooperate with other children. And that might not be easy. Studies have found that as many as 50% of young children's attempts to join playgroups are rejected. But eventually, Hannah will find some new friends. Stephen Asher, a professor of educational psychology, studies the way children form friendships.
When children think about forming friendships with other children, I think they're responding to a lot of different qualities in other children. They're responding, first of all, to the question of whether or not the other child is fun to be with. Is this an enjoyable play partner? Is the child imaginative? Does the child have good ideas about how to play? Is the child resourceful?
If you ask a 5-year-old to describe a friend, she'll talk in terms of things they do together. Who's your favorite friend?
It's Lisa.
What is Lisa like?
She just does almost anything you want to do. She's really fun.
What do you like to do with Lisa?
Well, I like to play in her basement. We did that yesterday. I made some pictures there.
And the same goes for a 6-year-old. It's what you do together. Who's like your best friend?
My best friend is Todd.
Todd? And what's Todd like?
He's on my soccer team. He takes the ball up most of the times.
But if you take a closer look at children's friendships, you'll see that a lot more is going on than just doing. Professor Asher describes what happens when researchers audiotape or videotape kids at play.
Even in early childhood, in 3 to 5, 6 years of age, children will express all kinds of fears and concerns, fears of inadequacy, fears that people think they're stupid, fears that their parents are going to abandon them. And they gain in their relationships with their peers reassurance from a best friend who says, no, you're not stupid, you're really a good guy, you know. But of course, if you asked a 5-year-old, what do you get from a friend, they would never be able to articulate this quality of their friendships.
The presence of a friend can offer comfort and security when a child is trying something new.
Some researchers have found that children will be just as comfortable entering a new situation if they're with their best friend as they would be if they were there with their mother or their father. In other words, children's friendships are providing a lot of emotional support, you might say, a basis for security for children to explore new situations.
Friends can also make a difference academically. We can't say that having a friend causes children to do well in school, but for one reason or another, there is a connection between friendship and academic performance.
Some recent research shows that kids who have a friend early in the school year not only do better in their social adjustment to kindergarten or first grade, but they even do better academically. When studies have been done at the other end of childhood and adolescence, namely the high school years, we find that children who had friends in early school years actually graduate at higher rates from high school compared to kids who are more unpopular. It seems that the more unpopular children are more likely to drop out of school.
As children move through the school years, they begin to articulate for themselves what they get out of friendship. Like this 9-year-old, they talk about emotional support.
When you fall or something, people help. They help you, and they go tell your mom or something if somebody's picking on you or stuff like that. Be nice to you.
Older children also become more choosy about who they call a friend.
I would suspect that children's definitions of a friend become somewhat more selective. Their understanding of what a friendship is more developed, and as such, they're less likely to refer to somebody as a friend unless there really has been a history with that person, a history that transcends just the last week or whatever.
You guys look like you're pretty good friends.
Yeah, we are. We're great friends.
Are you like best
We've been
friends?
great friends for a long time.
You're like best friends?
Yeah.
What do you like to do together?
Basketball.
We play
One-on-one.
against each other.
Yeah.
1-on-1.
You know what usually happens? Either one person will get a 2 or 3 point lead, and then the other person will just score like endless points. He does that to me a lot. Or it'll just be a one-sided blowout.
Have you ever blown them out?
Yeah, but he's blowing me out too.
Research is documenting how important it is to have a best friend, and it's finding that even preschoolers can have friendships that are intense, intimate, stable, and enduring.
One child I know one day said to his very best friend, Jessica, if you and I had been born the same day, we could play together every single day till the day we died. And this was a child who had been friends for 1 year, a 4.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and kind of really captures this spirit that we are best friends, that we could be together forever, and it's only a pity that we weren't born exactly the same day because we lost out on that year together.
As time goes on, some of the best friends of our childhood will drift away. Others may indeed be with us for life. But no matter what happens, memories of the friendships we had and the things we did with our friends will endure.
We would dig a hole that we called a bunk, and we'd climb in the hole and play war games and throw clouds of dirt at each other.
I used to have a group of friends, and we would play hide and go seek in the dark. And we used to do it in my basement because it was all underground and it was really dark. You turned off the lights and you couldn't see anything. So you could hide just standing in the middle of the room.
My friend David and I, we made up a whole playbook of plays, and we had signals of calling and calling plays and stuff. So we got in neighborhood games. We could actually run a team.
We used to play a lot of football, soccer as you call it over here. Yeah. Another friend down in the village, his father used to be a professional footballer, and so whenever you went down there, you were in a game.
Are there some kids at school that don't have any friends?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Julia.
Julia, nobody likes her.
Okay, so what's the deal? How come some kids don't have friends?
Basically, they're very... Okay. Julia, she's not that... Most of the time, I don't know. Some people... Julia's okay, but most people don't like her. I don't know why.
There's some things about certain people, just kind of... Yeah.
Well, would you want to be friends with Julia?
Probably not.
No.
As we come to realize the important role that friends play in a child's life, we also become concerned with a small group of children who fail to make friends. A lot of research has been done to determine who these children are and why they have difficulty. Professor Asher.
That's a very diverse group of children. I think as researchers study this group more and more, we're coming to appreciate how very diverse this group is. There are children who are quite aggressive and quite disruptive in their interactions with other children. But there are other children who are unpopular or rejected by peers who are not particularly aggressive, disruptive, but rather are withdrawn, socially awkward, lacking in social skills.
Psychologists estimate that 10 to 15% of school children experience serious difficulty in their peer relationships. These children have problems that go beyond being a little too aggressive or a little too withdrawn. They lack the ability to interact with other kids in a positive way.
Being rejected isn't simply a function of being aggressive or simply a function of being rather withdrawn. Rather, it's due to the absence of positive skills. There are many children in school who will occasionally be aggressive and, get into fights with other kids. But if these children at the same time can often be resourceful play partners, a lot of fun to be with, very cooperative, capable of being very kind, very helpful, they tend not to be rejected.
The same is true of shy kids. If they have positive social skills, they make friends.
There are many, many shy kids in school, and their social adjustment, by and large, is quite good. They have friends, they're well-liked, they're very thoughtful in their relationships with other people, but they may be a little bit slow to warm up, a little slow to join groups. Shyness, per se, doesn't seem to be a major risk indicator for kids in terms of the ability to form friendships.
All children experience rejection at one time or another. It's both painful and distressing.
We suspect that there's a lot of day-to-day experiences that involve hurt feelings, feelings of being left out, feelings of not being part of a group, feelings of not being able to find a friend when you need somebody to talk to, that these are very powerful experiences for many kids.
But some children experience consistent rejection. In many of them, the pattern emerges as early as the preschool years. Researchers are beginning to examine what kinds of experiences they have early in life.
We know, for example, that the quality of the attachment that the child forms to parents seems to predict to the kind of relationships that kids have later with peers. And it seems that parents of unpopular kids are much more likely to be rather harsh and punitive in their discipline practices. They're less likely to make use of verbal explanation and more likely to make use of physical punishment.
Some children learn at home that the world is harsh and punitive. This belief seems to carry over into school, where they interpret the neutral actions of others as unfriendly.
There seem to be children who consistently view other people's actions as negative or hostile. That is, if a child, for example, is teased, does the child feel that this person is trying to hurt you, or does this child respond as if it was just a playful, innocent kind of comment? Well, some children are quite good at discriminating teasing that is playful versus teasing that is hostile, and other kids have difficulties with these discriminations, and quite often will get into fights because they're much more likely to think that another person is really trying to hurt them.
Most children who experience rejection turn out fine, but others are at greater risk to have problems later on, to drop out of school, for example. Because of this, psychologists are looking for ways to help children with social difficulties. One approach is direct instruction in positive social skills.
Nobody really explicitly teaches you how to get along with other people. Teachers don't tend to explicitly teach you how to join groups, how to maintain conversation with other people, how to influence other people in positive, constructive ways, how to resolve conflicts when you're having a dispute, how to cope with teasing on the bus, how to deal with losing a friend. These are very important social tasks that children face in life, and adults face similar kinds of things later on in the workplace and in their friendships and in their marriages, and yet there really isn't a lot of overt, deliberate instruction.
Data show that when children are given such instruction, a number of them become better accepted. Other data indicate that children who haven't had this kind of training would welcome it.
We found recently that when we asked children directly, if there was a person in your school whose job it was to help children make friends or maintain friendships, if there was a person who would help children learn how to go about doing this, would you like to take advantage of that person's services? When we ask kids directly that kind of question, actually we find about half of all rejected kids say yes, they very much would like to take advantage of this kind of opportunity to learn more about how to get along with other children.
At first they would just say, "Oh, look at all those little 7th graders walking down the hall," and sometimes that was hard, being called like a little 7th grader.
7 years ago, 12-year-old Candy Reed made the transition that Hannah Holtzman is making. But recently, Candy made another transition. She went from being a big 6th grader in elementary school to being a little 7th grader in junior high. She remembers her first day.
I had to use my map for each class. First or second period, I thought I knew where I was going, and I brought my friend into 3 different wings of the school, and I got her, and I got us lost, and then we were late for class.
Academically, Candy has adjusted well to the new demands of junior high. As research has shown, the presence of friends makes a big difference.
I have a group of people that I hang around with. My friends Shelby and Colleen and Amy. We sit together in almost all classes, so it's hard not to be friends with them. They're really nice people.
The meaning of friendship is not the same as it was in elementary school. Candy is more selective. Her friendships have more of a history of trust and confidentiality.
I really don't have a best friend, but there is one that I hang around with a lot, and she's pretty special. She sleeps over a lot and stuff, and we go places. And I sit behind her almost in every class and everything. We write notes and tell each other that this class is so boring, and we share a lot of secrets. And I know that when I tell her a secret or something, that she won't spill the beans or anything. I know that she can keep a secret, and she trusts me too.
The meaning of friendship may have changed for Candy and its importance may have grown, but rejection still makes for some bad days.
Sometimes my friends just like gather around each other and they're acting like they're telling a secret and they don't include me in on it, and I just don't feel real good.
But for the most part, Candy enjoys junior high. She's pleased with her schoolwork, she likes her group of friends, and she's happy to be a part of things. Along with the bad days have come some very good ones.
The best day was when there was a football game and a dance that night, and in school I had done really well. I'd gotten like A's and B's on all my tests and papers and everything, and my friends were just like counting me in on everything, and it felt really good to be a part of things and to get good grades, and it was a real good day.
It was a good day, and the mix of good days and bad days is part of the story of human development. Candy and Hannah and Scuffy the tugboat were all meant for something bigger, but when they came to something bigger in life, they seemed very little in comparison. There was something they lost as well as something they gained. When kids go off to school for the first time, they take a step that children in all cultures take. They discover a world beyond family and home. They take on new responsibilities and devote more of their time to learning. They enter a society of peers. All of them will experience rejection at one time or another, and a few will be consistently rejected. But in the long run, the encouragement and support of their friends will help them through many of the transitions of life. They'll get by with a little help from their friends, and that'll make some of their first days some of their best days.
I didn't have very far to go because I used to walk up the lawn, climb over the fence, and I was in the schoolyard. We were right next door to it. But I remember walking up the drive, and all the other kids were stood in the doorway watching me. I was as nervous as hell because I didn't know half of them. And I was 4.5 years old on my own.